Welcome to the CouchScouts podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the CouchScouts podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper. With me, as always, is my co-host, Matt Rupert.
How you doing, my man?
And Matt Jackson.
What's going on, guys?
Good to have the three of us all back together again. Feels like it's been a while since the three of us were all on one show, but the band is back, and it feels pretty good. Welcome to any recurring listeners, returning listeners, and welcome to any new listeners. I know, Rupert, you got a chance to be on FFT this week, and you crushed it, so I'm sure we have some new folks listening as well. So welcome to you guys if this is your first time checking out the podcast. On tonight's episode, we are going to be projecting a little bit into the upcoming season. We're going to be discussing which players on your Dynasty roster we feel like have the most to gain in the 2025 season. And then tonight on our bonus episode, just for CouchScouts.com members, we will be recording players that we feel like have the most to lose in the 2025 season. So this is similar to buys and sells, but not quite the same, okay? Because just because somebody has the most to gain doesn't mean that I think it'll happen. And just because somebody has a lot to lose, I might still be willing to make that bet on them. But I think what we're looking at here is really if this player were to go off and have a great season, what would it do to their dynasty value? And obviously, for anybody that has a good season, their value is going to go up. But some people in particular, I think, have the opportunity to really have a meteoric rise. And we're going to talk about who those people are and why. And let's get into it. So we're each going to pick maybe two or three guys. We're going to talk about it, see how we're doing on time, get to as many guys as we can. But I will start with you, Rupert. Give us an example. Who is your first player that you feel like has the most to gain in the 2025 season?
I'm going with a player that I've really loved since his time in college, and that's Breece Hall. He's the guy that I feel like was a consensus RB3 and up last year after having an RB2 overall season, getting a ton of catches in his second season as the Jets. And then, last year, the entire Jets organization was just a complete dumpster fire. That offense was completely out of sync all year. And, he had a subpar season because of that. And I feel like his value, went down quite a bit. And I think that he's a guy that has the talent and the ability to be able to be one of those top 5 dynasty running backs. And I think with another good season to kind of remind people of who Breece Hall is, I think he's a guy that can get back up in that range.
Yeah, still just 23 years old. So absolutely, if he gets right back up to RB2 overall, like what he did a couple years ago at his age, he easily goes multiple rounds higher in startup ADP by this time next year. So I think that's a good call out. Do you think that's going to happen? Are you saying that the Jets are not going to be a dumpster fire this year? Are you saying that you expect him to bounce back and have a top 5 or 6 running back redraft season in 2025?
I am never going to bet that the Jets aren't going to be a dumpster fire. But I think he has the talent. I think last year was just, a real, combination of things. And I think that he could for sure do it. I'm not calling him to be one of those guys, but I think he has the talent to do it for sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that
depends.
Good thing.
Go ahead,
No,
Jack.
go ahead. I was saying, I think a lot of that depends on Justin Fields, doesn't it? Does he progress as a passer, or does he look like the same Justin Fields that was playing for Chicago and that was playing for Pittsburgh? Do opposing defenses and defensive coordinators stack the box because they know that Breece Hall is the only option that they got because Justin Fields can't throw the ball? I feel like he more than anybody is dependent on quarterback play.
Well, and I wonder too, Justin Fields, the Steelers used him in a smarter way where they weren't asking him to drop back and throw 30, 40 plus pass attempts a game. It was a pretty relatively conservative passing offense, which would not be good for Garrett Wilson. But it was, I would like to see Fields in a little bit of like read option and design runs, because that opens things up for Brees in the sense that, defenses can't overplay him because they're worried about the rushing threat from the quarterback. So, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I just think at 23 years old, knowing how talented he is, seeing what he's done in the past, the name brand value, the draft capital, I mean, everything tells me that Brees Hall's value is pretty insulated. Like, it's not going to go down a ton, but it could go up a ton. So I do like that call out a lot, Rupert. Who is your first player with the most to gain in 2025, Matt Jackson?
Yeah, so my first player, I took a Charlotte boy, going to y'all stopping grounds a little bit, and I took Bryce Young. Currently, right now, Young is going as QB 22 in the 7th round. We've talked about Bryce Young on this podcast before. The start of last season did not look great. Ended up getting benched, and he responded to the benching exactly how you would want a quarterback or any player really to respond to being benched. Like, he came back and looked more dynamic with the football. He looked like he was making smarter reads, and the Panthers have seemingly helped Bryce Young a lot this offseason. Outside of drafting Tet McMillan to give him a legitimate wide receiver one, this offseason they've added offensive line help, both in Austin Corbett and Brady Christensen to the offensive line, give him some help and some protection back there. Yes, they do still have what's his name, Adam Thielen, the good old reliable, and emphasis on old, right? But he can catch the ball, and he's Mr. Reliable. They've got Tet McMillan. They've got a guy in Trevor Etienne that we love. So I really I don't see how Bryce Young doesn't gain a whole lot this season. Like, going at QB 22 right now, I could foresee a path that he jumps into potentially top end QB 2, maybe even pushing QB 12, QB 13 type of range. If he has the type of season that I think he can have. So you talk about guys that have the most to gain, he's an obvious pick for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as Panthers fans, we hope that you're right about that. And, I think the upside is a little bit limited. Like you said, best case scenario, you're probably talking QB 12, QB 13 as a ceiling because the rushing isn't there as much. But certainly the passing looked much improved down the stretch last season, and they did get him some help, like you said. And even Leggett, I'm not a believer in Xavier Leggett, and I think if you can get anything for him in Dynasty, you should. But at the same time, if Tet moves him into more of a big slot rather than being, having to try to win on the outside and be an X receiver, Leggett could do better in a different role as well. So, that addition of Tet McMillan could help everybody in that offense. I like the call out there, and would love to see a high-end QB2 season from Bryce Young, both for, the shares I have in Dynasty and as a Panthers fan. So I'll share my first player with the most to gain, and I'm going to stay at the quarterback position. And I went with Drake May for the New England Patriots. This felt like an obvious pick here. And not that Drake May is cheap right now necessarily, but if you look at ADP on Dynasty Data Labs, you are going to see Drake May going off the board as, let's see, that's rookie ADP. I got the wrong thing pulled up. Find some startup ADP here. He's going off the board towards the back end of the second round as a 24th player overall. So last pick of the second round, QB9, which, top 10 dynasty quarterback, that's pretty good. But at the same time, with his rushing upside that he has, I mean, we know the ceiling for him is like a Josh Allen type because he's got a big arm, he's got the mobility. Not only is he able to run, but he has the willingness to run. Like he likes to tuck the ball down and run. He can pick up the rushing touchdowns because he's got a big frame in the red zone. And so, with the top 3 draft pedigree, with the athleticism and the mobility, I think if he takes a big step forward as a second-year player, I mean, we saw like a couple of years ago, CJ Stroud jumps up to like top 3 overall startup player. Right now, you're seeing Jaden Daniels top 3 overall startup player. So when one of these young quarterbacks shows really high-end upside in superflex leagues, they can really see a meteoric rise. And I think Drake May is that guy right now that you can get at the back end of the second, and if things go right for him this season, he could be like a mid to high first round startup pick this time next year.
No, I agree with that. He's one of those guys that I've had my eye on all offseason. I've tried to trade for and draft several shares, and I've been able to get a few. I really like the addition of Henderson to that backfield. Like the best pass blocking running back in the class goes to New England to help support Drake May. Like I think that's just a match made in heaven. They added some receivers. So I think, quarterback in Superflex League is always going to have value. So if he jumps up like some of these younger guys do, like you're talking about like somebody that's going to draft up to potentially a first round pick. So, I mean, it's felt like the easy one, but I'm glad that you said it because it's definitely worth saying.
Yep. All right, Rupert, who's your second guy here?
I went with DK Metcalf, and I just feel like he's a guy that, being someone that has some shares and has been trying to sell them this offseason, I've been kind of shocked at the value a little bit. His production's definitely fallen off. He had really great 2020 and 2021 seasons where he finished as a wide receiver 1. He had double-digit touchdowns in both those seasons. But ever since then, he's basically been a wide receiver 2 and even fallen off to a wide receiver 3 last year. But now that he's been traded away from the Seahawks, he's with the Steelers, and his wide receiver, competition for targets there is Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. I don't really see any way that he doesn't get 120, 130 targets this year, if not more. So I think he's a guy that could really establish himself as, potential wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 again. And he's still only 27, so I think he still has years left. We all know he's just one of the freakiest athletes in the NFL, size-speed combo. So now that he's in a place where he can really get dominant target shares, I think he's a guy that could see his value increase a lot this year.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, just to play devil's advocate, I think at 27 years old, in a pretty ugly offense with who knows what they have left out of Aaron Rodgers, and, the Steelers' offense in general has just been gross for a while now. It's like if he has another wide receiver 3 / low end wide receiver 2 to into a wide receiver 3 territory type of season, like Pickens did last year as their wide receiver 1. Now I think DK Metcalf is better than George Pickens, but he's also a guy that could really see his value crater in Dynasty. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Definitely a double-edged sword.
Yeah, like he could be on the most to gain list, and he could also, we could have easily made a case to put him on the most to lose list when we get to talking about that on the bonus show.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because, I mean, Aaron Rodgers did, for the most part, towards the end of the season, support Garrett Wilson. And I'm not saying that DK Metcalf is Garrett Wilson. Like, Garrett Wilson's a better player.
Well, and Devontae Adams, too. I mean, he was supporting both.
So, I mean, it can be done, right? So I can see the path that Rupert's talking about, but I can also see where you're coming from too, Coop.
Yeah. And I'm not predicting one way or the other. I'm saying either way could happen. Like, I don't know what to expect necessarily. I do think Rodgers, even though he's not what he used to be, I think he's better than probably what the Steelers were getting, certainly with Kenny Pickett and then with Russ Russ and Fields was an upgrade over Pickett, and then I think Rodgers presents an upgrade over those guys. So they're moving in the right direction, I guess. And for DK, it probably presents a quarterback upgrade from what he was getting out of Geno Smith. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from.
There'll still be a 500 team somehow.
Yeah, they'll squeeze into the end of the playoffs. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
well,
it's definitely not a buy for me. And that kind of goes to the thesis of the show. Like, we're not necessarily calling them to, do this, but it's in the realm of possibility in my eyes. Yeah, definitely an interesting case where I don't really see it staying as is. I see it going one way or the other pretty drastically.
Yeah. So let's say he gets like high end wide receiver 2 type of a season this year at 27 years old. Where in ADP do you think he would climb to? I'm putting you on the spot because you didn't prepare for this, but right now he's going off the board. Let me find him as wide receiver 25, 72nd overall pick in a startup draft. Do you see him getting up into like the mid 50s where Devontae Smith and Terry McLaurin are going? Potentially up into the 40s with like T. Higgins and Rashee Rice. I don't think I could see him getting that high at this point, but do you think getting up into the 50s is reasonable with a good season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it could definitely surpass like a Devontae Smith or McLaurin.
Okay. Well, I have somebody else in that 50s to 60s ADP range that I just mentioned, but I'll throw it to Jackson first. I'll just tease that I've got a wide receiver that I'm going to be talking about that's in that same range. But Jackson, who are you going with here as your second player with the most to gain?
Yeah, so if you've been listening for any length of time to this podcast over the last several weeks, you've heard me talk about Jameson Williams. And for me, he's one of those guys that feels like he has the most to gain this season. He's tied to a great offense, and yes, I know they just lost their offensive coordinator. We don't really know what kind of scheme or what that offense is going to look like. But at the same time, like I see a path right now where if Jameson Williams can put it all together, right? If he can be the guy that they're talking that like he is in training camp right now. I mean, he's currently going at wide receiver 29, 78 overall. Like he's always had the big play threat. He was somebody that, Coop, I know you and I both liked coming out of college in the NFL. He's tied to Jared Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown and him, they benefit each other so well. Amon-Ra St. Brown could work the short to intermediate game. Jameson Williams can go long. Like you're talking about a guy that can jump up to the 40s, 50s range. Like if he goes and has and plays with the talent that he's capable of, I feel like Jameson Williams is one of those guys that, could just see his stock skyrocket. But at the same time, like this most to gain thing is the flip side of that is if he doesn't do it this year, like we've already seen several years of Jameson Williams. So he's one of those players you talked about at Cooper a second ago that could go either way. I feel like he could go either way too. Like if he doesn't do well this season too, he's going to drop off. But
for me, like he is one that could just kind of be who he is and stay where he's at, right? Because what he did last year as a, more of a best ball guy, but like you could use him obviously in a lineup setting league. You just have to understand that there's a little bit of a boom bust nature because there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he is more of a big play threat guy anyway. So like, I think, yes, I loved his tape in college and he's still super young and he's talented and he's athletic. I think if his situation changed and he was on a different team where he had a chance to earn more targets, that's where I could really see him rising. I just think in that Lions offense with those mouths to feed, he probably just is who he is, and what you got out of him last year is probably what you'll get out of him this year in spite of all the camp buzz. That's my take on it. Like I don't see him dropping off drastically in terms of his production from last year, but I also don't see him improving on that a ton either. So my opinion, I just think who he was last year is who he's going to be this year. And unless something changes with that situation, he's kind of a wide receiver too.
I feel like it's a hopeful wish type of thing for me anyway. Like I want him to be so good, and I can see where you're coming from. Everything that you read, and yes, I know it's camp noise, like coaches, everybody's good in preseason. Like I get that. But just everything that you see coming out of camp is just he's taking steps forward. So I feel like he has that potential.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned, we loved his tape. He was my wide receiver 2 in that class after Garrett Wilson, which I will say looks like a mistake. Drake London is a better player, right? But I think what I liked in college was that he's not just a deep threat. Like he can run routes, he can separate. He does have twitchiness to his game horizontally. He can win off the line against press coverage. Like he is a good, talented young player. I think my issue is just the target share. Like, where does it come from? Similar to I guess best case scenario, like if he's really that talented, you could go to like an AJ Brown, Devontae Smith with Goddard in the wings type of a situation. But Laporte is better than Goddard. So I think, and Amon-Ra is better than AJ Brown. I think, at least from a fantasy perspective, he certainly has been. He commands more targets consistently. So that's where it's hard from a fantasy perspective to predict that breakout while he's with the Lions. But I agree with you. At this point, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised anyway, because after like the ACL stuff and then the gambling stuff and all the things, it was like, is he ever even going to be a usable fantasy asset?
Yeah.
And so I'm glad last year that he at least established himself as somebody that you can use on your roster, because I have a bunch of shares lying around from being so bullish on him as a rookie. So I would love for you to be right and for him to have this massive breakout season. I just don't know where the target share comes from, barring injury to somebody. So, all right. I have 2 more guys, but I'll share one first, and that is Xavier Worthy. So Xavier Worthy, he goes 1 pick after Terry McLaurin. So this is who I was teasing, but he is ADP 62 overall, wide receiver 22. But you're talking about a guy whose college tape I loved, and then he was a first-round draft pick, and he's still super, super young. And last year, like down the stretch, the production was just incredible, right? So what you saw out of Worthy down the stretch was not just like, oh man, he was making big plays and he got a couple fluky touchdowns, and so he had a couple of big fantasy weeks. Like, no, he was earning targets at a really high level. That was the most encouraging thing and I know like this is why the price is what it is. He's a little undersized. For the first 2/3 of his rookie season, he wasn't even really usable for fantasy. People are wondering what's going to happen when Rashee. So like I get all that, but Rashee Rice is probably not going to be 100% to start the season. We don't know when or if a suspension might be coming. And again, when you look down the stretch for Xavier Worthy, like those last 3 weeks of the season, weeks 15, 16, 17, 11 targets, 9 targets. Like he was the number 1 option for Pat Mahomes. And you see Rashee Rice priced a good bit, pick 43. So he's 20 picks higher than Worthy. Well, guess what? We saw a 3-game sample size of Rashee Rice as the wide receiver 1, and he was really productive for fantasy. And then at the end of the year, we saw a 3-week sample size of Worthy as the wide receiver 1, and he was really productive for fantasy. So, if Worthy comes out and picks up where he left off to end the season, like he's going to skyrocket up because people are going to, okay, he's young. He's Patrick Mahomes, wide receiver 1. He's tied to Mahomes long-term. Like why would you keep him in the 60s if he comes out and continues and picks up where he left off at the end of last season. You're going to have to move him up like multiple rounds, at least 20 spots in ADP, I think. If he comes up, all it takes is 2 or 3 weeks 1 through 3, with Rashee Rice not all the way back yet. Worthy leads the team in targets, looks good, looks like he did at the end of last year, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, this guy's the next fantasy superstar, and he's bumping up 20, 30 spots in ADP. Like, that's all it would take, just a couple of good weeks. So, yeah, I think he has a ton to gain this year if he comes out and establishes himself as Mahomes' top target, which I think is very within the realm of possibilities there.
Yeah, I can see it within the realm. I mean, you got Travis Kelce who's getting up there in age, right? He didn't look good this offseason, but he's still, his targets went down later on in the season. So, Mahomes is looking for that security blanket. There's a lot of uncertainty that makes me nervous when you look at the Chiefs roster right now. I mean, yes, you've got Rashee Rice coming back. I mean, is Hollywood Brown the odd man out in that offense? Like,
yes,
I'm not particularly worried about him, but he's still on the roster.
No, don't worry about Hollywood Brown. What are we talking about here? Hollywood Brown? When's the I mean, he's been since he was with the Cardinals before he was relevant.
I mean, I'm just saying the last 5 weeks of the season, 6 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets. Like, I'm not worried about him, but he's getting targets. Like,
with Rashee Rice, I mean, yeah, with Rice out, sure.
With Rice out, but is he still going to get targeted? That's what I'm saying. There's uncertainty. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. That's not enough. I'm not worried about Hollywood Brown. When Rashee Rice comes back, that's a valid, okay, how's the target pecking order going to come out between those two guys? But Hollywood Brown is going to be pretty much a non-factor, I think, when Rashee Rice and Worthy are both on the field healthy. That's just my opinion. But
I agree with you there, Coop. I like Worthy a lot, and I really like this call out. I think we were all three much higher than consensus last year on Worthy. And to me, what I really loved seeing at the end of the year was all that stuff that we saw on the tape at Texas that really made us fall in love with him. That twitchiness, that ability to win, not only on deep routes with his speed, but, man, he wins with his release, close to the line of scrimmage.
Yards after the catch.
Exactly. Yeah. To me, he does more than Rashee Rice does. And to me, I thought Rice was, the slot merchant, and then he's really good with yards after catch. Xavier Worthy can win early in the route on short routes, has the yak, and has a deep threat ability. And he's been able to have a full year to establish that connection with Mahomes. So I think Worthy and Rice are much closer in value in my eyes. And I could totally see Worthy end up being the number 1 wide receiver there.
Yeah. I think, he's a good bet in my opinion, at that ADP. Again, he's just 22 years old. All it takes is a couple weeks of a breakout, and he's going to see a huge value spike. So my last guy that I have, and so y'all each picked 2. I put a third down on here, and this is more of an honorable mention because I would say same thing as what I said to you, Rupert, about DK Metcalf is true of Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze could have made the list of who has the most to lose this year, just as much as he could make the list of who has the most to gain, because you're talking about a player who was a top 10 draft pick, extremely talented, young. We loved the tape. I mean, he's still young because he's a second-year NFL player, but he was a little older as a prospect, was not an early declare, but still relatively young guy. And even like if you look at historical ADP, which I found really interesting, I pulled this up. After the draft, Rome dropped about 12 spots in ADP just from, which makes sense. Like they picked up Loveland, they picked up Burden. Like I get it. Because I think prior to those guys getting drafted to the Bears, the narrative was, okay, now they brought in Ben Johnson. Rome's going to establish himself, if not the wide receiver 1, then kind of a 1A, 1B situation with DJ Moore. They have skill sets that complement each other. Caleb could take a leap. Like people were ready to jump all aboard the Rome Odunze hype train, and then they drafted Burden and Loveland. And not that that doesn't matter. I mean, those guys are good players, and I'm interested to see how it all shakes out. I'm just saying that with his youth and his talent and his draft capital, if he does come out and establish himself as the clear number one option in that offense, his value is going to go way up. Like, the only thing holding his value down right now, I mean, really it's two things. Is he had a down rookie year compared to expectations, which there's a lot of reasons for that. Coaching probably chief among them. That's the one thing. And then the number two is the uncertainty. How's the target thing going to shape out with all these weapons? But if he comes out and has this breakout second year and shows, hey, this new coaching staff knows how to use me, and I didn't forget how to play football, and I'm that guy that everybody thought I was when they drafted me, he's going to fly up ADP rankings at his age. So he's got a lot to gain. And then, of course, on the flip side, after a disappointing rookie year, if he comes out and has a disappointing second year, he could plummet. So this is a guy that could go either way, but certainly has a lot to gain this year too.
Yeah, no, that's another situation that I'm worried about. Not because I don't like Rome Odunze, or not because I'm worried. Like, and there's an odd man out. As much as I hate to say it, like it's probably my guy Luther Burke.
Yeah, it is.
Like I understand that, but there's still like outside of him, there's a lot of targets. Like Colston Loveland is going to demand targets. DJ Moore is going to command targets. Like DeAndre Swift had 40 or 50 receptions last year. Like he's at least getting some targets. Like, so, I mean, are the Bears going to throw the ball 40 times a game? Like I'm not saying that they won't, but like all that to say, like what you were talking about, it could so go either way. And like, that just makes me so nervous, but yeah, he does have a lot.
It does. Like this is again, where it's like, just because we shout out a guy has a lot to gain this year, doesn't necessarily mean we're saying he's a buy. Like I'm holding the Rome shares that I have. I'm not going out and actively trying to acquire new ones. Like, could he be a buy low right now? Yeah, he could. He could also go the other direction. So he is a guy that would make me really nervous to go out and buy in Dynasty right now. But for the shares that I have, I haven't given up hope, because he absolutely still very much within the realm of possibilities that he could come out, establish himself. Somebody's got to be the number one option, right? It's like, even in Detroit, where you've got all those mouths to feed, it's like, well, that doesn't mean you can't use Amon-Ra, right? Like, somebody's got to be the top dog. And there's nothing saying it can't be Rome Odunze. So, yes, there's a lot of mouths, but somebody's got to come out and establish themselves, and it could be him. And if he does, at his age with his draft capital, he could go like 4 rounds higher than he's going right now at this time next year. So
I will go out on a limb and say that I think Rome is a buy low candidate right now. To me, the talent is just too good. He's young. He's going to be tied to them for a while. I think he's going to be the dominant target earner there.
I love it. So real quick, before we let you guys go, want to let you all know about the great perks that we have at CouchScouts.com. Join the family. We have a growing community. We've got a free Discord, so that you don't have to, pay for anything. No membership required. The link will be in our show notes. We've got over 250 guys in there that are constantly talking Dynasty fantasy football. It's a great community. But we've also got a growing community over at our Couch Scouts website, and we've got a lot of great resources there. I know that there's people listening that have rookie drafts that haven't happened yet. And we had months. This was a months-long labor to put together this humongous 70-plus prospect rookie guide with film grades, scouting reports, color-coded tier-based rankings, like a lot of good information. Everything you need to dominate your rookie draft is in that rookie guide. We also offer one-on-one consultations you can schedule with us. We have an all-22 film room. We have the bonus podcast. Like I mentioned, we're going to be recording one right after we get off of this show. So lots of good value. You can join the Couch Scouts family for as little as $5 a month. and you can save 15% if you sign up with an annual subscription. So check that out, CouchScouts.com. And we would appreciate if you consider joining the Couch Scouts family. And I believe it's worth every penny. We've gotten great feedback from our members. We are working all the time to add to it. So even this time next year, I'm confident it'll have more perks than what it has right now. And we're a lot of what we're making from memberships, we're reinvesting right back in to make it a better product. So definitely check out Couch Scouts, check out the free Discord. Leave us a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And we appreciate y'all.